not there anymore. Anyone to speak at public question and answer? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Larry Morgenstein, 177 South Main Street.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to read this from you from the New Canaan Police Chief. The medication lockbox program has worked extremely well for us. From my perspective, it was very easy to implement from start to finish, and we are taking in a lot of prescription drugs. But that being said, I did none of the legwork. Our community relations officer, Sergeant Carol O'Grink, did all the heavy lifting and saw the project through from concept to completion. She did a great job. He strongly recommends without hesitation you implement the program. If you have any questions or need any future assistance, feel free to contact me. Now, this is the 12th response I've gotten from law enforcement programs that run a medical DropBox program. And their responses, I think, give a real insight as to how that's worked. Now, I got into this because I followed it by watching meetings, and I also followed it in the newspaper. And at the time, it seemed like a win-win proposal for this community. But I also heard what I thought were legitimate concerns expressed by the police chief and other people of this community. What I didn't see, though, are any facts to kind of answer those questions. So I took it upon myself to start looking for answers. There are no studies on this, but what we do have are almost 30 communities right now in Connecticut that have been running these programs. And from the responses I've been forwarding to all you folks, you've gotten a good idea. In fact, I've forwarded 3 more tonight to you. So you have 13, plus I've forwarded articles that have been written about other ones. So a few things that I just want to say about that. The other thing with these programs is that a lot of them have talked about pounds that they've collected, and one of my questions was, well, what does that actually translate into when they say they've collected 200 pounds, 15 pounds? Well, the pharmacists at Midstate were kind enough to reply to my wife to try to answer that question, to quantify this. So when you take a drug like OxyContin, which is one of the drugs that we don't want in our environment, we don't want people to misuse or abuse, that's a typical pill that we'd be looking at. So the question that the pharmacist answered was, how many pills would that be in a pound? That translates to 1,800 pills per pound. Now, at the low end, say from Chief Hale of Ansonia, they've collected 15 pounds. Well, that would translate into 27,000 pills that they've taken off the streets and not put in waterways. When Chief Stevens of Wolcott reports they've taken off 200 pounds, we're talking about 360,000 pills. Now, some people have suggested that this is a feel-good program. If you look at 30 communities taking off this amount out of our environment, out of the hands of people that could misuse them, overdose, I think we're overlooking a great opportunity here. Now, I've forwarded all this information to you. I was hoping to hear from you prior to this, but I'm taking advantage of this opportunity tonight to bring this out into public. I'd like to know where people stand on this. Have you read the material that I forwarded to you is my first question. I know that you've received it because I've gotten answers from the secretary who you send it to via email, and I know that I hand-delivered it to your secretary, Mr. Mayor. So I know the information has been delivered. So my first question is, have you got it, and have you read it? My second question is, where do you guys stand on this at this present moment? Because we've gotten the basis for answers here. And if there's still questions that you have about this, a lot of these chiefs in those emails said, feel free, contact me. They're enthusiastic about it. They would be willing to give their expertise. I guess another question I'd ask the mayor is, have you forwarded this information to the police chief? So those are my questions, and I'd like a response from the council and from the mayor. Thank you.
Go ahead if you'd like to, sure.
I did receive the information. I think there are several things. It's not the best way to dispose. The best way is for every citizen, as the literature all describes, to dispose of it appropriately, which is really through the garbage, leave the pills in the bottle, put water in the bottle so they dissolve, dispose of it that way. That can be happen from the home without any expenditure of energy. Issues of parking at our police department. I don't think the site could handle large numbers of people bringing pharmaceuticals. They do have the collection days for those who are unsure of what to do or just don't want to dispose of it properly as described in federal and state literature. They can do that, but we don't have large numbers of cars arriving, and I believe that this is something where citizens need to take responsibility. You know, there's a well-used phrase, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And this is an example of it. We have to be a citizenry that takes responsibility and handles things appropriately.
If I may, I think you can say that the citizenry is taking responsibility by coming to a place to safely dispose of it. It's not like the police are being asked to go door to door. The public is taking responsibility in all these 30 communities. As far as parking, I don't want to be a wise guy, but I do not believe that everybody at the same hour and same time are going to go to the police station to deliver their unwanted and medications. I find the parking not to really be an issue. I understand the personal responsibility, but I believe this is a way to enhance our ability as citizens to take some responsibility and also interface with the police department in a good way. Because it's also been suggested that people are reluctant to go to the police at this point, and I find that a disturbing concept. I think if we're doing a legal activity, it would be a good interface between the police and the public to be in alliance with each other.
I think another concern of the police department is the box has to be watched at all time. They are concerned about staff and capability of monitoring the box. There's inventory that must be accounted for. There are a number of logistical things the department must handle. They do not feel that given reductions in personnel and a variety of other things, they can responsibly look to take over this task when there is a far better way for people to dispose of the pharmaceuticals, which is to do it right from the home and do it appropriately, very simply.
Yeah. Again, respectfully, if you've read the 13 responses from police chiefs and their designated people, they indicate quite otherwise, that in terms of manpower, monitoring, it is really not a big deal. And if you do have legitimate questions about it, they would be happy to answer that. They've indicated that if you've read the material. They are quite specific, and in fact, the 3 I forwarded tonight are quite specific because I zeroed in on those questions. Manpower, monitoring. If you look at the police chief's own statements, and I'll leave it at that for now. And
Okay,
I'd like to hear if other counselors
Just a minute. Are there any counselors that want to respond? I know Counselor Cervoni. Okay. We'll just go right down the line.
Sir, I did get your email. In fact, it wasn't obvious to me from your email address who you were, so I had inquired and was informed. I think if you watched the original meeting where this was first presented to the council did have, I got the impression the council would support this Dropbox. You know, the issue we face is if it comes before us, we can allocate the money, but we can't make it happen. And I've, absent some support from the administration, and I've had conversations with Chief Dortenzio about the possibility of making it happen. Um, and at a certain point, I have to acknowledge that he has greater expertise in running his department than I ever will. So to some extent, I have to defer to him. But nonetheless, it's not that the box lacks support from the council. It's that the council lacks the ability to actually make it happen. We can fund it, but we can't put it into place. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilor Letourneau, we'll go right down the line.
I agree with Councilor Savoni that I think the will up here, the want up at this council is to have a drop box. But again, it's not up to us. I am a proponent of this. I think it's a wonderful idea. I have since the first meeting. I went to the very first meeting on this. And there's always an alternative. You can always, anything you can come up with an alternative. The mayor's stance on taking drugs and mixing them with water and putting them in the garbage, and that can it work? It probably can. It probably can. But again, we go back to a quality of life issue for Wallingford. Give something to the residents that they can feel safe bringing their pharmaceuticals to the police station and putting them in a safe location. They know that it's there. They know that it's there. And, is it a feel-good? Well, a little bit it's a feel-good, but it's a safety issue and it's a feel-good. But I think it's more of a, like I said, a quality of life issue for the town of Wallingford. And I see no reason at all why this can't be done. I've read all the correspondence, and I'm sorry I didn't respond because I didn't know who you were. I only respond to people that when I see a name attached to it. But yes, if I had my way, it would have been done already. But unfortunately, I don't. So I'll leave this to my other councilors. Thank you.
Councilor Laughlin.
Thank you. I agree. You're going to hear a lot of that as it goes down the row. Echoing what Councilor Savoni and Letourneau had said, I think the support is generally there. As I stated in that first meeting, I think people with an addiction are very, very creative in ways to obtain such addictions or medication in this case. And they would be willing to go through the garbage and things like that too. But it goes back to the operational issue, and unfortunately we just don't have that ability yet, and hopefully something can still be talked about and discussed and worked out on the operational.
Excuse me, what do you mean operational?
We don't have administrative authority over the police department or anything like that, right? So I always use the word operational, sorry. So those discussions I know are going back and forth and here and there, but it's a process, as anything is with government, unfortunately.
Well, at this time, I know that it was left to be tabled.
All right, sir, excuse me. I don't want to debate this right now. I'm going to go right down. You asked for the
Sure.
position of the councilors. That's what we'll do. We do have a time limit. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Morgenstern, for coming to us here tonight about this. I have gotten your correspondence, I have read your correspondence, and I've gotten correspondences from other individuals with regard to this, and I've reviewed all of their correspondences as well. You've heard from other councilors that generally there is support up here for that. I think that perhaps that statement emanates, the general term, from my adverse opinion to this situation in our particular police station. It's been indicated to us that for this box to be located in our particular police station as it exists, it would violate ADA. There would be problems with that. I have to rely upon that. That was part of the report, I believe, from the police chief. When you state that pills that go into these boxes are taking pills off of the street, I would have to differ with that statement with all due respect. The intent is for someone to take the pills from their own home, to take them out of the home, and then bring them to a police station. When the literature does indicate that proper disposal should happen within the home. As the mayor indicates, to take the bottle, put water in it, let it dilute. Recently, a group from the Board of Ed met with a group of Wallingford residents and decided upon certain terms that were going to guide, I forgot the name of the group, but one of those terms or phrases was personal responsibility. And I think that is very important here. I think that residents should be personally responsible for disposal of their own pharmaceuticals using the abilities that are within their control. Thank you.
Councilor Scotty, do you have?
No comment.
Councilor Sullivan.
Hi, Larry. Thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate everything you've sent to me and the time it took for you to do the research and get the responses. I have to commend you for that. My opinion reflects everyone except Councilor Fishbeins, but that's nothing new. You know, I'm not an expert on drug disposal. I'm not an expert on the police department and what goes into having a box there. But one thing I've been well schooled on tonight, and I guess I'm an expert, is that after the first item, I have no power over a department head. That was pretty clear tonight. Although I know in the past we've asked department heads to come back for information, and they've come back. I guess the rules have changed. But I think most people up here support you. But we just don't have the juice to do anything about instructing the police chief to install a box. The decision process maker is right there, not up here. And again, I hope you leave here knowing that the majority of your counselors support what you're doing, and that your aim is true, and that if you feel this is the best thing, keep at it, because that's the only way you make change. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Zandri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo sentiments from my fellow Councilor Sullivan here. I have to agree. The majority of us up here support this. We know that the Coalition for a Better Wallingford has taken the time and effort to make this a zero-cost thing. They've gotten the box. They were willing to install it. It was going to be zero cost with respect to the installation. The ADA argument, you know what? If we're not ADA compliant, then we need to be ADA compliant. And if we're going to make the argument that where this box is going to be located isn't ADA compliant, then I would ask, well, where is that, by the way? Because if it's not in the immediate entrance and it's up the stairs, then how does somebody in a wheelchair get up the stairs to get any of the paperwork that they need? So I don't recall the conversation with respect to the ADA the same way, but if there is an ADA problem, we should address it. I know that we have a couple of collections a year. And even if this drop box were available, I would still recommend doing at least one of them because it's an awareness factor. I think there's a lot of people that don't understand the ability to get rid of these pills. And for every set of pharmaceutical that is permitted to be dissolved up in the trash, there are some that you're not supposed to at all. There's some you're not supposed to flush. There's some you're not supposed to discard. And they have a long half-life in the ground. With respect to that, it is, as it was said, the buck stops over there, and we don't have the power and ability to do anything to change that. But don't let that, our inability to do something, stop your ability. Don't make it your inability to not keep coming back with the letters. I've read them all. I appreciate it. Keep them coming. Because all those letters do is just reemphasize what you've already said. Pounds and pounds worth of pills, 15 minutes a month to take care of them. We've got the incinerator right here in town. We've got to go effectively nowhere to get rid of them. Continue to make the points, continue to make the argument, and don't take no for an answer, because quite frankly, if it's something that the people want and it's going to cost us effectively nothing but 15 minutes worth of time for the police once a month to catalog the stuff, keep pressing. That's all I can say. You've got most of our support up here already. Thank you.
Councilor Economopoulos.
Yeah, I just want to say that not only do the majority of the councilors want it done, but majority of the public wants it done. And as elected officials, it would be our job to try to get it that way. But as you already know, the stumbling block, so I'm not going to go over that. As far as the legality, you've already said it can be done. It's been done in other towns. So the bottom line is there's a way to work around whatever these legalities are. I urge you to continue your cause. I think it's a great one. It's just another case of where the town wants something that's very important and that the two people who can make that change do not want it. So I urge you to continue to do what you're doing. You're going to need more than just writing letters, and you're going to need to go to where the people are affected that need to make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've read your emails. I commend you for your effort. I agree with my colleagues that we're legislative and financial. The mayor is the administrative head of the town. So while we can voice our favor for this project, the authority rests with the mayor and the department heads. So all I can tell you is what everyone else said. I guess keep pushing. You'll get it eventually. Just takes time. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. One more and then we're over. We're way over our time limit.
Mike Gannon, High Street, Wallingford. I read through the materials that Larry presented. I just wanted to say that I spent 3 hours at Lyman Hall. I think it was on an April evening, talking about mindset. They were talking about forward thinking, fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Yep.
It seems to me as though this is a perfect example right here.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the question and answer.